Hello. A big thank you to all of the pupils at St Andrew's International School who sent me questions in response to the video that I sent you last week about my life as a violinist, a viola player, pianist and music teacher. The first question comes from Yayoni. How do you motivate yourself to finish learning a song when it doesn't work out well? Usually a new piece will have at least one new technique which you have never encountered before. Be patient, it will take time to learn a new technique. In terms of motivation, think about the satisfaction that you will get when you have learnt the piece and you are able to play it on a platform in front of people or record it for YouTube, for example. Jenny asks, what is your favourite piece to play? For the violin, I am going to choose Charles Ives' Violin Sonata No. 2. Charles Ives was a great American modern composer. He wrote 4 wonderful violin sonatas. No. 2 is my favourite. For the viola, I'm going to choose Schubert's Arpeggione Sonata. It is probably the most tuneful, long piece which is written for the viola. For the piano, I'm going to choose Alban Berg's Piano Sonata Opus 1. Alban Berg was an Austrian modern composer, a member of the Second Viennese School, a pupil of Schoenberg. His first sonata is actually in B minor. It is thoroughly modern in its musical language. I also am a big fan of Alban Berg. Jocelyn asks, how did you feel when you played in front of people? Certainly awake, concentrated, motivated, to mention that word again because there's an audience there who have come to hear you, and excited. And excited can also mean nervous, which is a good thing because nerves keeps you alert and keeps you concentrating. Patira asks, when did you start playing the violin? I was 8 when I started the violin, which was 1 year after the piano. I started the piano when I was 7, and then when I was a grade 1 level I started the violin, and when I was a teenager I began the viola. I was probably 13, I think, when I started the viola. Kada asks, I'm playing the piano as well, but it's really hard for me to get through each piece. How long does it take for you to be at this advanced level? It took me about 8 years on the violin and piano to get from beginner level to grade 8. Some people will learn faster than that, of course, and some people maybe a little bit slower. But I think if you progress at approximately 1 grade level per year, then you are going to be on the right course. Do you still need the piano piece in front of you while playing an advanced piano piece, or can you remember the notes from memory? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Some pieces you learn very quickly and you know them so well that playing them from memory is quite easy. With other pieces it isn't so easy. There's a very famous violinist called Pinchas Zukerman, one of the great soloists, and he always uses music, even for the most familiar famous pieces like the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto. Andrew asks, can you play Megalovania? I had a look on YouTube, I listened, and I found the music on the internet, and yes, I played through the first page of that. It's a very catchy piece of music, and yes, if I spend a little bit of time on that, I'll be able to play that. I think it's a 5-minute piece. Leonore, who's 13, asks, where was your favourite place to perform so far? In Cornwall, next to Land's End, in the west coast of England, there's an outdoor theatre called the Minack Theatre, which is a beautiful outdoor amphitheatre, especially on a summer day, sunny summer's day. That's my favourite place to perform. Sean asks, what made you come to Thailand to perform and teach as a musician? John Georgiadis was the conductor of the Royal Bangkok Symphony Orchestra over 20 years ago, and he asked me to come to Thailand. So that's the reason I came here, to play and at a later stage teach also in a number of schools. What other countries have I performed in? The video I made last week lists the countries that I've spent a lot of time in. Alex, what is the hardest piece you can play? On the violin, probably the Korngold Violin Concerto. It's a modern concerto, but thoroughly romantic and virtuosic in spirit. Cooper, when do you choose to teach music and why? After I left university, I did my first teaching at a public school in England called Bearwood College. And I needed to find work, and I was a qualified musician, and that's one of the things that you do. I took to it immediately and thoroughly enjoyed it, and I continue to teach to this day. Jake asks, what composer's music is good for young musicians to listen when getting into classical music? Mozart. He's one of the greatest composers, of course, in terms of quality of music, and his music is instantly enjoyable. He wrote music intending it to be enjoyed as entertainment as well as art. So Mozart, you can't get better than that. Captain asks, have you composed some songs? A few, yes. I haven't composed a symphony or a string quartet or even a piano sonata, but I do sometimes write 5-minute length songs, sometimes a little bit longer. I was on Koh Samed recently, the island, Koh Samed, and I was inspired to write a song called Peach Perfect Paradise, which turned out to be, I think, a 7-minute piano solo in a jazzy style. And that's the kind of thing I like to do occasionally for my own interest. Arav asks, if you could play a different instrument, what would it be? Electric guitar, because I'm also a big fan of rock music, and also the drum kit and percussion in general, also because of the rock music interest. Paddy, who is 12, asks, what musician would you like to collaborate with? One of the greatest living violinists is called Maxim Vengerov, and it would be wonderful if he could visit Bangkok someday and play a concerto with the Royal Bangkok Symphony Orchestra. Nathan asks, when did you start performing? My first concert on a stage, I would have been 10 or 11 years old with my local youth orchestra in North London. We played Vaughan Williams' London Symphony, which is a vivid memory because it was the first big piece that I played in a concert with an orchestra. Huilin asks, which one do you like to play more, piano or violin? I'll include viola there also, of course, which is in effect a big violin. But between the piano and the violin, 50-50. I love them equally. They are totally different, and I enjoy the different challenges because of that. Lenny asks, aside from classical music, what other styles do you play? Classical music is my main focus. I love to play jazz music occasionally. In Khon Kaen, in the north of Thailand, I have a partnership with a guitarist, and we have a guitar violin acoustic duo, which is a jazz-based band. I occasionally get to play with rock bands, in a string ensemble, for example. So yes, I love other styles of music as much as I love classical music. Dom asks, can I play a small part of any song with a chicken wing? I don't think I would attempt to play either the piano or the violin with a chicken wing, but it did remind me of a famous piece of music called Chopsticks, which is something that beginner pianists like to play. Chopsticks, from a piece called Chop Waltz, is a piece where you can play the main part with just your 2 index fingers, the left and the right hand. And instead of playing it with the fingers, it just occurred to me you could try that with 2 chopsticks, if you're careful, on the piano keys. So if you find that piece on the internet, that's a lot of fun. And you could, maybe not chicken wings, but chopsticks, yes. Lucia asks, how do you feel while performing? We had that question earlier on. And yes, you need to be excited, a little bit nervous, which can make you perform better because nerves make you concentrate even more. Samira has the final question. Out of the 2 instruments, which one do you enjoy playing more? And again, we had that question already. And 50-50. The violin I like because you can play in a big group. An orchestra can be 80 or 90 people. And the piano I like because that often is a solo instrument. And you actually play the entire piece by yourself. So they're very different, but equally enjoyable if you work hard at them. Thank you very much for sending the questions, and as I said at the end of last week's video, I hope that I will meet some of you or even all of you sometime soon. Okay, goodbye.